Welcome back to the Abi Khan Show podcast. I appreciate your time, your attention, and I want to respect it. So before we jump right into the show, a question that got asked to me yesterday was, when are guests coming back? And for those of you who don't know, I started this podcast 2020. So it was just before the pandemic. It was the December before the pandemic. Might be 2019 then. And it was because I wanted to be able to connect with people. I wanted to be able to have great conversations inspired by shows such as the Tim Ferriss Show, which was arguably the number one podcast in the world at that point. Obviously, there's many, 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 many more podcasts right now, but I started it not as a way to be able to become popular, to become a voice in the health and fitness world, but I wanted to be able to connect with other people. And I found that talking was the thing that I love to do, although people have told me way too fucking much. And the podcast is a great way of doing that. And I did that for 77 episodes. So throughout 2020, throughout lockdown, I did it. I loved every second of it. And the only reason I really stopped is that I found myself going down a path that, although enjoyable, wasn't going to allow me to achieve the thing that I wanted. And the thing that I really wanted was to be an actor. I wanted to be a professional working actor. And that's still the dream. The acting industry, as many of people have told me, and the people that are listening to this podcast that are in that creative world, is fucking difficult. It is super, super hard to be able to get into. Even if you are good, there's some incredibly talented people that I've met along the way that are struggling to get auditions and get roles. And then vice versa, there's some people that are quote unquote less talented than them, at least subjectively, that are doing incredibly well. But I mean, fair play to them. End of the day, like you take the opportunities that you're given and you run with them. So in terms of the guests, yes, guests are going to 100% come back. Right now, I think the podcast is in a place where two different things. One, there is way, way, way more competition out there in terms of the amount of podcasts on. But it's also a case of people wanting to not be part of the podcast game. There's people that I've had on the podcast previous says, hey, look, I'd love to do another episode. The podcast is back. And they're like, look, it was great. I had a great time on your show. If I was still into that thing, I would. And I was like, what do you mean into that thing? And they were like, look, I'm just over podcasts. And I think there is that dilution in the industry and in the world of so much content, not even just podcasts. If we take a step back, it is so much content out there that you do get a little over it. You're just like, fuck me, I don't want to keep watching this stuff. I'm spending all my time and I'm putting all my effort and attention into these things, and I just need a break. I just need to take a step back. And that happens for a lot of people. But yeah, so answer the question, the guests are going to be coming back. I've got a few lined up for later this year. So that's going to be very, very exciting. But in between, we're going to be throwing some solo podcasts out there. We're going to be throwing those podcasts out there. It allows me to do a couple of things. It allows me to be able to articulate my thoughts. It allows me to be able to connect deeper to the listeners, because it's not just about me talking to another guest and you being a fly on the wall. It's about me talking to you and you being able to formulate your own thoughts, feelings, and opinions on whatever the subject matter might be. So without further ado, the subject matter that we're going to talk about today is AI and the future of health and wellness. The health and wellness industry is something that I've been in for the last 15 years, just over. And I've done everything you can imagine, from group fitness coaching to one-on-one personal training to group coaching to small group coaching. I'm also a certified aqua aerobics instructor. Conversation for a different time. I got conned into it, but it boded me well for a period of time. And let me tell you, if you think any type of coaching, whether that is coaching difficult type A clients, whether that's online coaching, whether that is coaching group classes, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more challenging than coaching 100, this is at the peak of my coaching in aqua aerobics, 100 very angry 60-plus-year-old women, some men, but very much predominantly women. I remember one of the classes that I had to teach. Generally with those size classes, you do an Olympic pool, and you would have 2 to 3 instructors, because there's just a lot of people, health and safety, and also understanding that there's a ton of people to be able to coordinate, make sure they're doing things correctly as well. I remember 2 occasions where instructors didn't turn up. So it was just me by myself. And I'm this like 23-year-old, absolutely fucking bricking it because old ladies can be mean. But I was lucky enough that I was good at my job and they absolutely loved me, which was cool. The future of health and fitness and health and wellness is in such an interesting position right now, especially with the rise of AI. And really, the big idea we're going to speak about is the healthcare system itself was built to be able to treat disease. It's not built for high performers and the top 1%ers. AI is about to collapse that model entirely, shifting health from reactive to predictive. There's going to come a time in which you can be assessed by your GP and then be able to say to you, hey, we've got this particular issue occurring right now with your current lifestyle. In 5 months' time, your blood pressure is going to go from being moderately high to extremely high. You're going to have increased hypertension is going to go up. You're going to have a cascade of negative health impacts that occurs. Predictive health. It's going to be able to, through AI, and this is the beauty of it, is going to be able to go from a very generic protocol and keep it very, very hyper personalized to you as an individual and understand your previous health, your current health, and even your future health dictated by what your current lifestyle is. And then really be able to take that and spit something out to you that's going to be not just personalized, but really allow you to make significant progress in your own health and wellness. And this is health. Yes, there's going to be fitness elements to this as well. But if we're looking at just overall health, and health meaning without disease, and disease meaning dis-ease, the lack of ease, the lack of a good quality of life, essentially. If you're looking at high performing professionals who spent decades deferring their health to overloaded systems that sees them once a year for 12 minutes, you're going to be able to even potentially do this at home. I'm sure there's going to be an at-home health kit that you're going to be able to monitor yourself on a daily basis and ensure that you are not just surviving, but thriving. It has already changed what monitoring your health means. I've got a bunch of studies here that I'm going to touch on here, and I'll link some in the show notes below as well. But the era of passive health tracking is over. All the wearables, just like the OG kind of Fitbits that literally just told you a time and you were able to calculate your steps. There are far more complex tools like your Whoop Coach, which allows you to be able to translate complex physiological systems like your heart rate variability, which you might just see as HRV, sleep, strain, recovery, into direct, actionable guidance, which is powered, yes, by AI and large language models. It's not physical, it's not fitness data anymore. This is real-time biological. You've got essentially a real-time biological dashboard. You've got something that you can see right now, and it's almost like when you look at your stocks and your shares, and you can see your health data on the screen. And it allows you to be able to not just understand it, but do something about it. Your Ring and Watch isn't just logging numbers anymore. It's interpreting the data, and it's telling you specifically what to do with pretty good accuracy. There is a 2025 Wiley study validating consumer wearables and found that Aura, Ring, and Whoop devices demonstrated the strongest accuracy for HIV tracking against ECG references, with Aura Ring Gen 4 achieving a LINS concordance score of 0.98, making them credible tools for longitudinal health monitoring. And that's by the Physiological Society. For high-performing professionals, the most underutilized health biomarker isn't cholesterol, it is heart rate variability. A 2025 multi-study review published in Census found that higher morning HRV was significantly associated with greater executive function in the prior 48 hours. And that between person differences in average HRV correlated with lower fatigue and negative effect over time. Essentially, your HRV or your heart rate variability is the monitoring system of your autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two branches. It has a parasympathetic state, being your rest and relax state, which is probably the state that you're in right now, unless you're at the gym. And then you've got your sympathetic state, which is your fight or flight state, which you might have heard that term before. And that's really where your blood is going to rush away from your digestive system, your immune system, and it's going to go to your extremities, being your head, your brain, your arms, and your legs. And that is preparing you to fight whatever the threat is or to run away from whatever the threat is. Your parasympathetic state is ideally the state we want to try and be in for the most part of the day. It is where you're just chilled, where you're cruising, where thoughts are coming and going very, very fluidly. Where you're too jacked up and too stressed all the time, it starts having a negative cascade on your overall health and performance. But we do need it. When you're in the gym, you need to be ready to fucking go. We need to be able to drive up cortisol, drive up adrenaline, and actually be able to go and perform. And if that's not there, you'll find that you are performing terribly. AI wearables are now mapping your pace of aging in real time. Whoop's health span metric launched in 2025 using everyday training and sleep decisions to tie real-time choices into long-term biological aging pacing. Whether that is 100% correct or not, I think we're still too early to be able to tell. Whenever we're looking at longevity or long-term biological stats, scores, data, the challenge is that we need a significant amount of time to understand, is this working or not? And the challenge that I have is that by the time that we implement, whether that's a peer-reviewed study or any case studies, the text changed. So being able to go do something for especially nowadays with the speed of AI, there's something that you're going to implement today, and in potentially a week's time, it becomes almost obsolete because something new has started to come about. So whenever we're looking at longevity, I think it's always an interesting one to be able to go, let me look at this with a grain of salt. Let me understand that if this is working in the way that I want it to work, I need to ensure that I understand, hey, this might change in a few weeks' time. Because it's something that we don't want to tie ourselves completely into, understanding that if I use a wearable like Whoop or Whoop's health span metrics, and so that's what we're talking about right now, in a year's time, in a month's time, in a week's time, this might change. But it's not negligible data. It's still data that we can use. It's still something that's, okay, I've seen this, here's what it is. It's like your blood pressure. Your blood pressure can change from day to day. But if you understand that, okay, I've got a consistent reading of high blood pressure, 80 over 170. I just made that up. But let's say it's crazy high. But okay, now we've got some challenges here. And it's important to be able to understand that. There are platforms, however, like Virta Health that have demonstrated clinical grade outcomes through AI-driven nutrition coaching with documented reversal of type 2 diabetes markers. Meanwhile, DNA-based nutrition platforms are using AI to interpret changes in metabolic and hormonal biomarkers related to individual sleep, HRV, and metabolic patterns. The era of following a genetic nutrition plan is about to be over. The new AI model is going to assess your blood works, your genetics, your predisposition to certain cardiovascular diseases, whether that is osteoporosis or whether that is diabetes, for example. It's going to track your sleep data and basically build out your program specific to you as an individual. What I wouldn't be surprised in is that you could potentially adapt on a day-to-day basis with how you're feeling. Here's exactly what your scores are. Here's a potential little prick of blood. Here's exactly what you need to consume today. And we know this by the AI-driven data, which would be pretty fucking cool, And I'm sure there's companies out there that are definitely going to be working with those things. Because let's face it, the subject of today is we're looking at AI and the future of health and wellness. Artificial intelligence is not going anywhere. We would be remiss and frankly fucking stupid if we think that it is. It's like the internet when it first came out and it was like, this is just a fad. It's not a fad. If AI or the internet went away, we'd be in some serious fucking trouble. We'd be in some serious trouble because everything that we know runs pretty much from that. All the computers and the datas in your medical systems, in your health systems, in your hospitals, in your doctors, in arguably your work, even in most cars as well. There is a computer system attached to that. Here's a shock stat for you. The AI mental health market just crossed $1.5 billion per year. By 2035, it's projected to hit $55 billion. That's not a tech trend. That's a market pricing. In fact, the current system is broken and everybody knows it. People are leaning towards further help and further artificial intelligence. We've been told that AI in health is about replacing doctors, and it's not. It's about basically giving you the biological self-awareness that your doctor never had time to. Let's face it, doctors, I know some very, very intelligent doctors. I know some stupid ones as well. But it's not necessarily 100% their fault or their responsibility to be able to treat each patient with the same level of care, because the system itself wants to try and get through as many people as it possibly can. The NHS, for example, in the UK, wants to try and get through as many patients as clients as possible. They are understaffed, they are overworked. Doctors and nurses and surgeons work ridiculous hours, and yet they're told to be able to, or they need to operate at such a high level, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And at some point, yes, something's going to break, and it's going to be them, and issues can happen, and mistakes can happen as well. And instead, what it allows us to be able to, and hopefully, this is the hopeful part of the world, before we touch on a couple of destructive things, that your doctor should be able to use a lot of AI to be able to assist and help you. Because even though there is going to be some self-biological awareness, great. But most people still won't have a fucking clue what to do. Most people would still rather, I think, go to their GP or someone that they trust and say, hey, I've got this data. What can we do with it? And your doctor will be able to take all your data and say, here's what we need to do. Here's how we're going to fix whatever the ailment might be. As I'm sipping a can of Monster right now, I wouldn't be surprised if I would be able to look at my phone data right now and it tell me exactly what's just happened inside of my body from a chemical process. That'd be fucking cool, wouldn't it? That'd be really, really cool. So I think that in terms of the doctors, GPs, hospitals, in the medical world, there's a lot of really positive things that are coming that's going to be able to allow them to treat more people, which I'm really, really looking forward to. There is going to be discrepancies with things like your Aura Ring and your Whoop. They're not 100% accurate 100% of the time. So do be aware of that. But there definitely is some good data to be able to have in throughout that. I was on listening to a podcast earlier this week on Modern Wisdom by this super smart AI dude. That's what I'm going to call him. I can't remember his name. But he was talking about the destructive side of artificial intelligence as well. Yes, there's going to be a ton of positives. And that's if everything goes well. And obviously we, as optimists, we like to look at all the positives, but there is certainly a pessimistic standpoint. There is certainly okay, cool. Well, let's say AI continues to self-replicate. Let's say it starts to self-improve, which is what it does. At some point, it's going to determine that human beings aren't as valuable as the artificial intelligences. At some point, potentially governments will see that. People or governments put a lot of money into physical and manual labor, into people, into companies that are driven by people. What happens if that's not true anymore? What happens if AI realizes and governments realize, hey, well, the more that we put into data centers and the more we put into AI, increase our bottom line, increase our net profit, we get more money. Human beings start to become or look like they're pretty obsolete. And I know that's a weird angle to look at things. There's a really famous investor called Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel invested in PayPal back in the day when Musk started it. He invested in Facebook really early on and a bunch of stuff. He's a really, really smart guy, really successful guy as well. And he was asked a question, forgive me if I butcher this, but basically it's something along the lines of, do you want humanity to survive? And he paused, I think, for about 17 seconds. And the interviewer was like, you realize you're pausing for a really long time. And then he's kind of stuttering and he's trying to get his thought process back. But this is interesting. I'm one of the people that is in the kind of at the forefront of investing in companies and knows a fair bit about AI, couldn't just say, yeah, I want my kids to survive still. He was like, well, that's the crazy shit that's going on into today's society. So as we are wrapping up, there's a few little ideas that I wanted to run across. At some point, your ring is going to know that you're burning out before you do. Your wearable flags your stress 3 weeks before your body breaks down. You just didn't know how to read it. Aura's cumulative stress feature and Whoop's pace of aging metric specifically frame for executive, for people in, let's say they're in high power positions in C-suite executives like your CEO, your CMO, your COO, they're able to understand their own health metrics just as well as athletes, which is incredibly beneficial for them to not burn out, to be able to take a break when they need to, and to be able to ensure they're operating at the highest possible level. And this podcast is all about. It's about how do we make ourselves just 1% better every day? How do we operate in the 1%? I mean, who doesn't want to be great? Who doesn't want to go and make themselves a better version of themselves than they were 12 months ago? I've never met anyone that goes, yeah, you know what? I just want to get shitter and just decline. It's like, just doesn't happen. That's why this podcast was created in the first place. It's like, how do we learn from each other to get better? How do I get the smartest minds that I can? How do I get using AI as well to be able to get the best subject matters, topics, case studies out there and be able to formulate them in a way that is presentable and digestible and then help educate the listeners to improve their own life. That's what this podcast is all about. Getting people from a multitude of different areas, a multitude of different subject matters, and let them share their own knowledge. If you do want to have interesting guests that you'd love me to be able to reach out to, then please just drop a comment, or you can follow me on Instagram and drop a DM there. People tend to still do that, which I kind of like, because out of all the social media platforms, I do like YouTube, to be fair, but I like Instagram as a kind of a day-to-day thing. I can't really get into any of the other ones. The same AI chatbot that helps 10 million people manage anxiety is making another million more isolated. AI has a serious impact on our mental health, on anxiety, and on depression. When I was a child, which wasn't long ago at all, I didn't have a mobile phone until I was about 16 years old. And until that time, people were probably thinking, well, what did you do? I went outside, I breathed in fresh air, and I fucking played. And it was the greatest time because it taught you many different things. A, to get outside and get some good quality vitamin D, which is obviously very, very limited in the UK, but you got some fresh air. You went outside and you exercised. You went outside and you learned skills. You learned how to interact with other human beings. You learned how to socialize. You learned that it was really fucking uncomfortable socializing with friends of friends or someone that you just met, but you got really good at it. And then when you went to go talk to the girl or guy at school that you fancied, you were more open to it. You were more like, I think I've got this. And that gives you a little bit of confidence. That little bit of confidence goes a long way, not just in relationships, but in work as well, because you're able to hold a conversation with a future employer or a work colleague. But nowadays, we don't get that. We've got a ton of people that are struggling with mental health stress. And I think we look at mental health mental health is not mental health all negative. I think there is almost a spectrum in mental health. It is, are you leading towards more of a positive aspect, being joy, love, happiness, or are you leading to kind of the destructive, like chronic anxiety, depression, things of that nature? But I don't think that artificial intelligence is going to help with that. I think that this is the time in society where we want to do more things together. We want more community. From an anthropological perspective, we are community creatures. We hunt and herd in packs. Communities were generally based around 150 people. We've got way more than that. We've got access to multiple millions of people. And that's really hard to be able to keep up. So it's going to be an interesting place where AI takes us. I hope that we can implement measures that helps reduce some of these symptoms, but AI loneliness data is scary to be able to look at. Social media was kind of the first part of that, and that's had a catastrophic decline in people's mental health. The NHS is about 10 years behind. Healthcare is the least AI-ready industry on the planet. And that's not a problem, but it is an opportunity for them to be able to step up, for them to be able to say, hey, we need to implement this quickly. Because if you look at the speed and rate in which AI is moving, There's not many healthcare institutes in the world that are implementing it at the rate where it can positively impact people. But yet there are many private companies and establishments that are doing phenomenal things as it relates to utilizing AI in everyday life. As we're wrapping this up, the whole topic was what AI is going to bring to the future of health and wellness. I hope you got from this that there are going to certainly be some negatives. There are certainly going to be some things that I don't think we've even thought about that come to light. Just as social media did, we thought that it would bring connectedness and togetherness, and it began to just isolate people more than ever. One of the best things that I think happened is last year, 2025, that Australia implemented a ban on social media for under 16s, which was great. My partner's Australian, an honorary Australian. I'm an Australian citizen. One of my kids was born in Australia, one of my kids was born in the UK. I think that was one of the best moves because I think another 25% of the world's countries have started to follow suit and start to put bans in place. I don't think, and I put several polls about this on my Instagram stories and had these conversations. I don't think there is a significant benefit to kids being on social media versus not. I don't think there's a significant benefit. I think they will get way more, or anything they really need to learn on social media, they can get from talking to another human being, whether that is a family member or a friend. They can read a fucking book or they can go outside and figure out and learn about it. I don't think there's anything more than those three things that would, for me at least, allow my kid to go, you know what, you need to choose social media and going on social media over doing one of those other three things. I just don't think that world exists, in my opinion, at least. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Just leave a comment below. As we're wrapping up, I hope that we can start to have an open dialogue conversation about the future of AI, and especially in the health and fitness world. There are going to certainly be some positives as well. It's not all doom and gloom. There's going to be some phenomenal medical advancements that happen, potentially catching things like cancers early on, things like metabolic diseases early on. There's going to be some significant positive impact. And that's really going to come from the human spirit. It's going to come from people being able to come together and say, you know what, I'm going to choose health and wellness, mental health and wellness, physical health and wellness over just improving my bottom line. Because it's like, how many trillions of dollars? What do you do with $1 trillion, by the way? Like, what the fuck do you do with it? There's not much you can not get if you were a billionaire or even a multimillionaire. $1 trillion? Seems like a bit much. Seems like too much power for one individual to have. But I hope you enjoy, guys. Rate the podcast. That means a lot to me. Subscribe so you can catch up on more frequent episodes. Catch you soon.